is Whiskey and Wood, bringing the people, the stories, and the success to you. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and these guys and gals are out to get a piece of it. Why Whiskey and Wood? Why not? Hello everyone, Paul Grenier here, another episode of Whiskey and Wood. Super excited to be sitting down with Shaun Preston, Camp Small, which is affiliated, I guess. He's going to tell us a little bit about it with the City of Baltimore, Parks and Rec. And he is kind of on the front lines. We talk on this show a lot about urban lumber and kind of what it's creating in this industry, what municipalities are dealing with. And there's no better person right now to talk about that with than Shaun, who's running the show over there in Baltimore. So yeah, Shaun, go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I started working for Baltimore City to kind of get this program off the ground in 2016. And like you said, the program Camp Small, has sort of stayed at the site that it's held for 100 years or so as the city's wood dump. Stump dump is what it was affectionately called for decades. And in 2016, probably right around 2010, the city started really getting serious about trying to find a way to capture some of the value that was being lost at the site, because this stuff would just pile up, and then the city would have to pay to have somebody come in here and grind it all up, make it into mulch, haul it away. Sometimes that cost was kind of low, and sometimes it was very high. As that market kind of changes. But I came in and I had just a small track loader and no way to process any of the material. So I was just trying to figure out markets for it, which was good. I mean, it got me sort of in touch with a lot of the suppliers, a lot of the makers, trying to figure out what direction we could go in, where we woodworking, metalworking. So I was already kind of connected with that scene in Baltimore, and with some architects and developers. And I had a lot to learn as far as species identification, from recognizing things from bark instead of leaf, or bark instead of a face grain, and we've grown a whole lot in the last 7 years. A slow growth, but nice and steady, where we've added a bunch of equipment and what we're capable of doing. So now we can do more finished products.
Yeah, that's awesome. So 2010, you guys started thinking about, we have this influx of material. And most of this material, does it come from the expansion of the city, trees that are just overgrown and starting to fall down from tree service companies, or is it a combination of all of that?
Yeah, it's so what we take in is just city managed trees. So probably 99% of the material that comes in here is just street trees right away. And then we get some stuff from the parks, but most of the stuff that falls in the parks, unless it's an open parkland, it stays in the parks.
So just trees that need to be removed for expansion on state property. So it's really probably a small amount of the trees, if you consider tree service companies for private projects and private land. It's a smaller portion of what's potentially out there for this urban wood that is, like you said, was for the longest time just getting grinded up and turned into mulch or composted or thrown in a hole somewhere. So
yeah, they say we get about 15% of Baltimore City's total volume of wood debris, and we take in anywhere from like 7 to 10,000 tons a year, and that's just from
it's a lot of material. That's in one city. And what's crazy is I'm guessing most cities across this country, now they're 150-year-old cities, are having the same issues of this influx of material. Now people are sitting down and seriously thinking, we need to do something better with this material than chip it up. And it's just a huge opportunity, because the material that comes into you isn't necessarily material that the conventional large machine of logging and wood processing doesn't want anything to do with it, and it still has tremendous value. Have you guys been able to keep track of what you've created with this, how much wood, what projects it's gone towards or anything like that?
Yeah, we keep track of all that, all those things. Yeah, you're right. It is a monster amount of material that could potentially come out of our cities. And like I said, we've been like a slow build up. Where right now we're still just a two-person full-time staff. We have plans, and that should expand with like a workforce development program in the fall and some additional equipment coming this year. But right now, this past year, we processed or sort of utilized 1,000 tons of the material that comes in here.
That's awesome. So are you selling the material after you process it? Is it going into state park buildings or benches, or what is the material being used for?
Yeah. So we do a lot of lumber. We do a lot of green lumber, and we process about right around 40,000 board feet of kiln dried lumber. And then the rest of the material is going into outdoor classrooms, outdoor play spaces, community projects, community gardens, paths, borders, mushroom farming, hobbyists doing bowl turning and green build stuff. It's kind of amazing once something establishes like this and the word starts to spread. I could not have thought of half of the things that this wood is going to 6 or 7 years ago. It just kind of becomes its thing, and people start coming in, and we get questions a lot of. The other day we had somebody come in and they bought 2 pieces of lumber from us, and they were like, who buys all this stuff? Because we were telling them how much volume we go through. It's a large amount, and they were like, who buys all of it? I think the question was, are most of your customers coming in and buying 1 or 2 pieces? And yeah, most of our customers are buying very small quantities, but we do have a number of customers that buy a large amount. And and they make up most of the volume that goes out the door.
15% is what you guys utilize. And how many tons? Can you remind me, how many tons did you say that was?
Yeah, so it's about 7 to 10,000 tons a year that comes into our facility, 4.5 acre facility. And then that's, like you said, about 15% of the total city. So I mean, you're looking at roughly 100,000 tons of material.
Just in Baltimore. And I feel like there's been a change among people in the past several years, maybe 10, 15 years. It's even, if you look at food, people want to start eating more locally sustainable food. They're starting to be more conscious of that. Where did it come from? How much waste does it create? And I feel like the wood industry is kind of following that as well. And a lot of our customers focus on saving these trees from being waste and making some of the most beautiful furniture, utilizing them for park structures like you are. And it's just a massive amount of wood that is kind of free for the taking for a lot of people. I mean, of course, once it's processed, people can come buy it. But as far as the processors, you can get hooked up with that wood pretty easy. And honestly, Baltimore, you guys are trying to do it yourself. I don't know how many other cities are tackling it themselves right now. But I did speak with somebody the other day who's from a smaller city, not quite as big as Baltimore. And he went there, and the guy's like, if you really want to help me, you would take 4 18-wheeler loads of wood out of here a year, because we are running out of places to send all this mulch and chipped up wood. So it's a huge opportunity. It really goes back into the community, which I really like about your story. It's being used for structures, and it sounds like there's the money that you use, you're generating revenue that goes back to the city as well with the wood sales.
It was sort of, Baltimore City has a kind of a unique fund program in finance, in the city's finance, and it's called the Innovation Fund. And it's just a large pool of money that city agencies can get a loan out of if they apply and do a proper business proposal, showing a return on investment. They can get a pretty substantial loan from the city, which of course has a lower risk, no interest rates. And so that's how our programs started. It started on a small $100,000 loan that basically hired me and gave me some money to rent equipment to produce a compost. I used the sale of that compost to pay back the $100,000 loan, which set us up on a really good sort of successful track record with the Innovation Fund. And so since then, they've kind of been there for us when we want to take the next step, when we need an excavator with a grapple or skid steer or kiln or sawmill, we can go to the Innovation Fund and we can say, if you give us this much money, this is the payback, this is how that's going to look. And so they've been very supportive of our program, and that's huge for us. And a lot of cities don't have something like that. It's like, and also, other cities have trouble selling their material. Baltimore City, has it written in the code for the past 100 years that we can sort of get maximum value off of the property that the city owns. It's called a surplus. And so we fall into that, and that allows us to sell our goods. And some cities can't sell their goods, so they go into public-private partnerships, which are fantastic for those private companies, those small companies, and you're creating this like really nice little habitat in this private partnership. But it's really nice that Baltimore City's been able to do it itself, because it lowers that risk a lot as long as the city supports the program, and otherwise you run into a lot of troubles with that, with not being able to grow.
And I mean, it's cool that Baltimore has that set up and that you guys can take advantage of it. And like you said, for some cities that don't have it set up where you could actually money off of the material you're yielding, it's a great opportunity for other guys to come in and kind of create a partnership with the municipalities to take it off their property. And usually they're happy to get rid of it. And we're happy to see it in the world as a piece of wood and not buried in the ground. So
yeah. And like you said, it's a lot of cities right now that are getting these programs off the ground, and there's so much support out there for these cities. There's a lot of sort of federal research that's done from the U.S. Forest Service, like directly with Camp Small, that's now public and available on how we started, where we went to, a large business analysis that was done by a group in DC called Quantified Ventures, and that's public, and that shows what Camp Small would look like if it was a full-scale 13-person operation, and that's after like what would have been about a $2.7 million investment. And that's a great blueprint for a city that's like looking to start something like this, because it shows here's what you can do full scale. And we did that, and then we just stepped back. We looked at it and we said, okay, we're going to use our innovation funds instead of going after some private funding, and we're going to scale that like $2.5 million ask back to 1.3 million, and it's going to get us a grinder, it's going to get us all these so to become a full scale in-house zero waste facility where we can process all of the material in house, and we're not just producing the lumber, selling whole logs, but we're doing compost, and we're doing mulches, and and we're doing biochar. There's a lot of support out there, and there's probably a dozen cities around the US that are actively right now looking at this and trying to figure this out and creating those partnerships.
And I've read an article, we're going to put it in our Whiskey and Wood website, that talked about you and what you guys are doing, and it was just really cool, the whole process of what this could be, and kind of setting up a roadmap for these other cities. So congratulations, and thank you for that. Put the article up on Whiskey and Wood. Go and read it. Super interesting. And really, there's even maybe some legislation going on trying to make sure. It's staggering numbers that you told me, the amount of potential urban lumber. And really, if you start Googling urban lumber, every article is like a couple years old. Like, this is kind of it's not a new problem, but it's a new way we're looking at the problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the last few years, it's really has changed. So we are kind of right at the beginning, creating something awesome. And municipalities, smaller wood production facilities, they're all going to play a key role in this, because the large conglomerates, it's not something they're interested in. So it's it gets me fired up every day to think about this industry and the businesses it can create and the waste that we're saving. It's what I love about my job. So
yeah, me too. It's a fantastic field to work in. Changes all the time. I mean, especially here, we've got so many irons in the fire, and it's so rewarding. It's gratifying to do this kind of work where you're, like you said, you don't have to go back very far to where, for instance, Camp Small was just, a lot of it was complete waste. And, and a portion of it was just going to a very low value. White oaks, beautiful white oaks getting ground up into mulch is just something that should not happen. And so, this movement is like seeing that, every single piece of wood is sort of looked at and sort of processed for its highest purpose and highest value. And that's incredibly important, and the fact that that's becoming a movement because of like the cities like Baltimore and programs like this, as well as, companies like your own, is huge. And then, and having the support of local fabricators that are doing, beautiful conference tables and like, and marketing that urban wood, and that the customer base that's looking for that stuff is now aware that that's an option and that it has a story, is so appealing, and it's creating, like you said, creating a big movement.
Yeah, and it's a huge movement, and we hope it continues. We think we think we're at the beginning of it, and yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting times, and we're glad that you guys innovated the whole program and the process, and other cities are following. Thankful for the opportunity that our customers are having, and we're just thankful to be a part of it. So yeah, absolutely.
So like I said, we do a bunch of outdoor play spaces and classrooms, which is really fun. I mean, cutting a log up is always fun. Like every log is fun to cut up. You get on the sawmill, you have no idea what it's going to look like, and it's exciting to open it and see what's going on inside. It's a whole story, that's like wrapped up in bark basically, and you open it up and you see this 200-year-old story, or 100-year-old story, whatever it is. But we also really enjoy doing these play spaces. They're one-offs, they're quick, they're creative, they're fun. It's we're usually interacting with a parent at a school or teacher that's very excited about the possibilities. We usually work on the design with them. Those are folks who tend to not have the knowledge of the species of wood and capabilities, and how the logs react and stuff. So we bring a lot to the table there, and then help in the design. I mean, when logs come into our yard, they go into a huge pile, and then we pull from that pile, and then we sort around our facility, around our building by species. And we've got this massive pile of play logs, which are just, rot resistant species, which for us it's white oak, the Japanese Zelkova, mulberries, and our locusts, honey and black locust. And, we'll sort those out. We've got this huge pile of place-based logs, which are just those gnarly rot-resistant logs in different sizes, but, some up to 50 inches in diameter and 16 feet long. And so it's an opportunity for us to like use those gnarly logs and create a climbing structure for kids. And then once we set it, we'll take the chainsaws and we'll put some platforms into it, make it really interactive, make it something that the kids see and it looks approachable. It's less intimidating when it has like steps going up to it, right? But so we've been doing those, and we have so much fun doing them.
That's a fun project, I can imagine. I mean, think about it. You say you got these trees you're saving, you get to kind of get in touch with your inner kid of what would be a cool thing to play on when you're a kid, and help design that. And then you get to see the kids' faces when they go and play on it.
Right.
Like, that's kind of the ideal. That's the ideal job right there. That sounds like a great time.
Right. Set up. So we started this past year selling logs to the zoo for everything, for animal, for bird perching, for the elephants to just beat the crap out of, and the rhinos to beat the crap out of, for the porcupines, hollow logs for them to hide in, all sorts of things. I could not believe the list that the zoo gave us. When they were like, here's everything we're looking for, and it's like 50 animals, and each animal's just like dream desire for wood. We're going to be going over there in the next weeks to build similar climbing play structures that we've been doing for kids. We're going to go do for the chimpanzees.
That's cool.
And for the goats. Yeah.
And you guys, you actually assemble them. So you come up with a sketch, and you guys get out there and you guys start putting these things together. And
the sketch will like incorporate benches and stools, like log tables, things like that. And then we don't really design on paper the climbing structure. We'll just kind of visualize it. Me and my colleague Nick will kind of pick the logs, visualize how they'll work, then we'll set it up here at Camp Small to get a sense of how it fits together well. Take some photos of it, and then we'll deliver it all on the log truck, and then set it up
there.
Just as we had here. That we're able to do so many things, that we're not just a sawmill, or that we're not just a fabrication shop, and we're not just a supplier. We're kind of everything. I'm sure as the program grows and more people come in, my job will become more and more just sitting at a desk, but hopefully I can fight that, you know.
Shaun, where do you see the program going in the next few years? Is it growing? Obviously, is that part of the plan? A little bit at a time.
Yeah, it's growing. You know, we're excited about the time when we'll be able to open our doors to private material. You know, that's a really nice thing for us, is that, you know, eventually our supply is not going to keep up with the demand. You know, I mean, right now we've got a huge demand and a great supply of ash. Pretty soon that ash supply is going to be gone, and the demand is still going to be there, and we'll have to figure out a way to work that out. But you know, we see our personnel is going to grow through a workforce development program. We're going to be partnering with a local nonprofit that has a workforce development operation, and what they offer their employees now sort of fits in. We would be a really good sort of next step for those employees, where they'd be able to come over here and get 6 months of training with us to learn how to operate heavy equipment, walk away with a certificate, learn wood shop, basically wood shop 101. And then from us, they'd go to a local fabrication shop and learn wood shop 102 for 6 months. And then they'd also, you know, learn about the sawmill and kiln operation and species identification, basic forestry skills. You know,
what a great opportunity. What a great opportunity for someone.
So we're super excited to offer that to Baltimore City residents, you know, and try to, I mean, we've got this huge movement right now across the country of planting trees. We don't have enough people to do that. So, you know, we'd be helping strengthening that workforce, you know, and we'll pull from those trainees that come through here. We'll pull them, coach them as our full-time staff, you know. So our hope in the next 3 years is to grow our full-time staff to a 4-person staff, to continue to have a 3-person rotating workforce development program going, to increase our production to double our production of kiln dried material through, you know, more vacuum kilns and a larger sawmill. Right now, like, you know, we run an LT35, and you know, our width capacity is 23 inches, which gives us a lot of limitation. Luckily, we've got great support from sort of other operations, private operations around Baltimore that have larger sawmills. So those big logs that we can't run do not get wasted. They get bought and run on other people's mills and turned into lumber. But you know, we'd love to be able to do that in-house. So we're looking forward to getting a larger sawmill. And then we are looking to partner with our public works department that's starting their citywide compost operation. So they'll be doing a lot of grinding, and they'll need a lot of carbon for that compost. So a lot of the majority of our low value logs will go into that compost operation in the city. And then we're, you know, just strengthen the health of our trees, you know, watersheds. And so, you know, we're hoping to pilot that out with a pyrolysis unit that'll heat our facilities here at Camp Small with the wood that we get in. And then, you know, the byproduct will be the biochar, and then we'll put that into our tree plantings, you know, that'll help our trees in these like extremely harsh conditions that we're planting in.
That's awesome. Well, Shaun, I really thank you for your time, and, you know, keep on doing the good that you guys are doing and kind of being the roadmap for other people. Really awesome to see and awesome to hear the story. And I look forward to seeing more from you guys and what's to come. Endless opportunity from the sound of it.
Thanks, Paul. I really appreciate it. I know that iDRY is going to continue to make really, really awesome things to help this movement.
We're in it for the long haul with all the other guys listening to this and with you guys as well. So cool. All right. Thanks,
you, sir. Paul. Take it easy.
Bye.